cannot maintain 1.5 meter distance, you can always get the mask from the main reception area. Please consider allocated seatings. We encourage people to remain seated as much as possible to minimize commingling between seated groups. Consider staggering at the start and finish times of program to minimize crowding around the venue. There are signs in the hall to remind about COVID protocols. Floor signs indicate the 1.5 meter distance while in a queue. In the exhibition area, please follow the social distance rule, avoid handshake, use entry and exit paths as indicated. Thank you. I request all the guests to please take your seats so that we can formally start the program. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the gracious, ever merciful. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet today, Poom Wurundjeri people of Kulin Nation. I pay my respect to their elders, past, present, and future. For the recitation of Holy Quran and its translation, I would like to call on stage Mr. Rehan Majoka.
Assalamu alaikum. My peace and blessing of Allah be upon you all. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور المسبر له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. English translation. Chapter 59, verse 23 to 25. In the name of Allah, the gracious, ever merciful. He is Allah, and there is no God beside Him, the knower of the unseen and the seen. He is the gracious, the merciful. He is Allah, and there is no God beside Him, the sovereign, the Holy One, the source of peace, the bestower of security, the protector, the mighty, the subduer, the exalted. Holy is Allah, far above that which they associate with Him. He is Allah, the Creator, the Maker, the Fashioner. His are the most beautiful names. All that is in the heavens and the earth glorifies Him, and He is the mighty, the wise. Jazakallah. Thank you.
Before we formally start the event, general housekeeping things to remember are: the restrooms are on the right side of the stage. The male restrooms are on the far right of the stage, and the female are on the upper right side of the stage. In the case of any fire emergency, evacuate the building using the nearest exit doors with the exit signs and gather in the lawn outside the main reception door. Walk quickly and calmly to the assembly area. Do not leave the evacuation assembly area until all clear has been given by the local first aid officer. The designated first aid officer, Dr. Salman, will guide you further in the case of any adverse event. When you enter the hall, on your left side, we have organized a small Quran exhibition showcasing the verses from the Quran and their explanation, and also the translation of the Quran in various languages. Please do visit. If you would like to get a translation of the Quran, you can leave your details on the reception, and we will deliver it to you free of cost. On my left side is the prayer area. You're more than welcome to go in the prayer area, but make sure you take off your shoes before entering the prayer area. I've already explained the rules, COVID rules, and just request all the guests to please follow them as much as they can. For your feedback is important. This year, we have left a QR code message on the tables. If you guys can please scan those QR codes and leave your comments about the event at the end of the event. And now, to all the respected guests, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we ask that you all please rise and welcome a group of kids from our community who will sing the national anthem. I request you all to please remain standing and direct your attention to the group of kids singing the national anthem. Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are one and free. Indeed, we are free and we are united. Please be seated. Thanks, kids, for the melodious national anthem. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community are Muslims who believe in the Messiah, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian, peace be upon him. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad founded the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in 1889 as a revival movement within Islam, emphasizing its essential teachings of peace, love, justice, and sanity of life. Today, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community is the world's largest Islamic community under one divinely appointed leader, His Holiness Mirza Masroor Ahmad. May Allah be his helper. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community spans over 200 countries with membership exceeding tens of millions. The current Khalifa, Mirza Masroor Ahmad, may Allah be his helper, resides in the United Kingdom and serves as the community's spiritual and administrative head. Under the leadership of Khilafat, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community has built over 16,000 mosques, 600 schools, and 30 hospitals. It has translated the Holy Quran into over 70 languages. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community propagates Islam's true teaching of peace and tolerance through a 24-hour satellite television channel MTA, the internet www.alislam.org, and print through Islam International publications. It stands at the forefront of disaster relief worldwide through its Humanity First and non-profit charity organization, and also involved in a lot of local charitable fundraising as well and a lot of community events. Without further delay, I would like to invite our first presenter of the day, Abdus Salam Danish. The topic of his speech is How I Celebrate Australia Day. Abdus Salam Danish.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I begin with the name of Allah, the most gracious, ever merciful. Respected elders, honorary guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. Today, in this auspicious event, I have been given the opportunity to present a speech on the topic, How I Spend My Australia Day. Before we start, what does Australia Day mean to me? Australia Day is a day where we can show our appreciation towards the country that has allowed us to practice our beliefs to the fullest. Australia is our homeland. It is a country where all faith, color, language, and ethnicities are accepted. Love and loyalty to our country is part of our faith. It is very important that we celebrate this day in order to show gratitude towards this country and its people. Moving on to the main subject at hand, how do I celebrate Australia Day? For this, I will recount my past experiences with Australia Day. Australia Day is a very important day to us, much like our Eid, Islamic New Year, and Jummah. To start my Australia Day, I wake up early and take a shower. Our Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, cleanliness is part of faith. It is very important that we stay clean, especially on this day. After taking a shower, I quickly get dressed and pray our voluntary early morning prayer, Tahajjud, and our early morning prayer, Fajr. After prayers, I eat my breakfast since I need to keep my energy up for the rest of the day. When I finish having breakfast, we gather around to do silent prayers for the country we live in. Our Holy Prophet said that love of one's country is part of faith. Our prayers are proof that we love our country. Next, we depart for the celebrations at Melbourne City, where we take part in the Australia Day parade. Unfortunately, we were unable to participate in the last couple of parades due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But fortunately, I do have memories of the parades I participated in. Alhamdulillah, by the grace of God, I was able to participate in the first parade on behalf of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community in Victoria, which was organized by my father, Muhammad Rahmat Samiullah Sahib. It was a very memorable experience. I saw many people from different backgrounds, nationalities, and cultures, as well as interests. That is when I recognized that Australia Day is not just a big walk or exercise. It is a day where we all come together to celebrate our differences and the opportunities that Australia has given us. During the parade, we chanted, "Australia, Australia, long live Australia," and "La ilaha illallah, Muhammadar Rasulullah," which means that there is no God but Allah, and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his servant and messenger. Following the parade, we all gathered and did silent prayers for the country that we lived in. After the silent prayers, we were free to roam around until the barbecue was ready. During the time, I distributed pamphlets to many people. It was a lot of fun because we had a silent competition to see who can give out the most pamphlets. While distributing, I also got to see a lot of stalls, which serves as proof that Australia is the most culturally accepting country and is something to be extremely proud of. Our community also held some stalls during Australia Day. The Women's Auxiliary, Lajna, held a henna stall, while the Men's Auxiliary, Khuddam, held a book stall. All the funds went to Humanity First, our community's charity program. Following all that tiring but fun work, we had our afternoon prayers, Zohar and Asr. After our prayers, we had our sizzling barbecue. Let me be honest, nothing beats the iconic saucy Aussie sausage with a bun with a ball of cola after a long and tiring day. I begin, excuse me. When the celebrations are over, we once again did silent prayers. I always used to help a bit with the pack-up once we were done. We always had a lot of reserve pamphlets, so I used to distribute them after the event too. Later in the week, in the closest weekend, our community throughout Australia held an event, much like the one we are in right now, where we have a lot of people from different nationalities and backgrounds talking about Australia Day and their appreciation towards the country. After all this, we are going to have silent prayers, then we are going to have dinner, which I bet most people are looking forward to the most. Throughout the speech, you might have noticed a recurring theme, which is prayers. Our Caliph, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmed, has said that as citizens of any country, we Ahmadiyya Muslims will always show absolute love and loyalty to the state. Every Ahmadiyya Muslim has a desire for his chosen country to excel and should always endeavor towards this objective. Before I end my speech, I would like to quote a line from our national anthem and a line from our parade. Australians, let us all rejoice, for we are one and free. Australia, Australia, long live Australia. Thank you for giving me the time to speak on this topic, and I pray that us Ahmadiyya Muslims will be the best Australians in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Abdul Salam. Indeed, we should always leave our differences aside and celebrate the day for the country that has given us a lot. Our next speaker for today is Aiza Bajwa, and the topic that she's presenting today is Love of Country, Part of My Faith. Aiza.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the Gracious, the Merciful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. First, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for coming. As an Ahmadiyya Muslim community member, I would like to speak to you about Islam's teachings of love and loyalty to one's country. Having attachment to a place we call home is innate human nature. Loving own country and its people is a necessity trait for every Muslim. Islam does not draw any distinction between loyalty to one's faith and country. Muslims who enjoy liberty to practice and preach their faith are required to honor their country's government and live as decent, law-abiding citizens. In Islam, obedience to the law of the land is a religious duty. The Holy Quran commands Muslims to remain faithful to not only Allah but also the authority they live under. The Holy Quran says, O ye who believe, obey Allah and obey His Messenger and those who are in authority over you. Chapter 4, verse 60. The Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ always expressed a deep sense of love to his birthplace, Mecca. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is reported to have said, love for one's country is part of faith. For the first 13 years of his ministry, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his followers were persecuted in Mecca. Yet within this period, they never raised arms against their oppressors. The Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ stressed this point when he said, one who obeys his authority obeys me. One who disobeys his authority disobeys me. Muslims are therefore required to live by this noble teaching and remain loyal to their country. The present head of the worldwide Ahmadiyya Muslim Community, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmed, may Allah be his helper, has also explained that a true Muslim can never raise his voice in hatred against his fellow citizens, nor for that matter against the ruling authority or government of the time. It's the responsibility of a true Muslim that he should remain loyal and fully obey by the laws of the land of which he is a subject of. Youth members of the Ahmadiyya community swear an oath of allegiance to the country they live in, which includes this sentence: I solemnly promise that I shall always keep myself ready to serve Islam, my nation, and my country, and I shall always adhere the truth. In conclusion, one can live faithfully as a Muslim and a proactive member of this beautiful country. We should be among those who spread Islam's message by performing our civic responsibilities, contributing to the country's development, and practicing love for all, hated for none. We should, in fact, we must love this amazing piece of land we call home. God bless you all. God bless Australia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Isa, for a lovely speech. It's been wonderful to get to know our new re-elected councillors better and witness their dedication to working together as a team. They bring with them a diverse range of skills and experience, but they share a passion as well. Our first guest speaker for tonight is Councillor Bredhill from Frankston City Council, South Ward. Frankston, a place that headquarters the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community, Victoria, and is also home to our Beth Salam Mosque, House of Peace. Our new council hit the ground running in November 2020. This occasion will not only allow us to celebrate Australia Day, but also provide opportunity for us to get to know our local councillors and know their vision, aspiration for the next 4 years, and also share our love and dedication in making this place even better. Let us hear from him, Councillor Bredhill.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Councillor Brad Hill from Frankston City Council. Thank you for the kind invitation to attend the annual Australia Day event hosted by the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association of Victoria. I'd like to acknowledge our hosts and forgive me with the pronunciation, but Mr. Inamul Haq Kassar, the President of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community of Australia, the local missionary in charge of Victoria and Tasmania, Wadud Janud, and all members of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community here today. I would also like to acknowledge my councillor colleagues, Councillor Sue Baker, Councillor Claire Harvey, I believe, is on her way, hasn't arrived yet, but she'll be here soon. Also here is Councillor Colin Ross from Cardinia Shire, other distinguished guests including the State Member for Gembrook, Mr Betten MP. It's also the Shadow Minister for Youth, Justice and Crime Prevention. Also the State Member for Narre North, Mr Luke Donnellan MP, the Minister for Child Protection and Minister for Ageing and Carers. The Chief Executive of Peninsula Health, Felicity Top. They run all the hospitals and all the public health all the way from Frankston all the way down the peninsula. Executive Director for Operations, Helen Cooper. The Consul General for India, of India, Mr Raj Kumar. The President of the Southeastern Young Liberals, James Moody. And certainly, last but not least, Neighbourhood Watch Cardinia Chairperson, Mr David Farrelly. Before I go further, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I respectfully acknowledge that Australia Day has multiple meanings. It's Australia Day for some, however for others it's known as Survival Day. Many people in this country have mixed feelings about celebrating Australia Day. And it's important that these views are respected and that collectively we have constructive conversations about this history and we seek ways to move forward as a nation. Having said that, I think we all would agree that we have a lot in this country to celebrate. 2020 has been an incredibly difficult time. Everyone in our community has been impacted one way or the other with the coronavirus. So I want to particularly acknowledge the wonderful work from Peninsula Health and our medical frontline workers who have sacrificed and given so much to keep us all safe and healthy during this year. On behalf of Frankston City Council, it's wonderful, following the hard work and sacrifice in the last year by all, to be able to come here today to this mosque and celebrate Australia Day together. I respectfully pay tribute to the Ahmadiyya Muslim community for hosting today's event and for their ongoing support for the local community. From participating in Clean Up Australia Day to the Red Cross Tornok Appeal and to their incredible efforts in fundraising and providing funds to the Victoria Bush Fire Relief Appeal, you continue to demonstrate incredible efforts and community spirit and an unwavering willingness to support these causes, rolling up your sleeves and actually doing the hard work. So keep up the great work and enjoy the rest of today's event, and may 2021 bring everyone here today an abundance of harmony and peace. Just before I go, I was lucky enough to be invited here approximately 10 years ago as a newly elected councillor at that time. The building we're in today had been recently acquired by the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, and to be honest, it was quite run down. There were smashed windows. It was not fit for purpose. And I just wanted to say I'm really impressed when I came here today to look at the state of the building, the surrounding grounds. It's really obvious to me that a lot of work's been done. The the people who have contributed to make the facility what it is today through hard work, through fundraising, through their donations. It's a credit to you all, so well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Birdhill. We all deeply respect the feelings of all living in this beautiful country, and we appreciate for recognizing the efforts of our community. Our guest speaker for tonight is Neil Angus. Full name is Neil Andrew Warwick Angus. Is a member of Victorian Legislative Assembly representing the electoral district of Forest Hill. He was elected in 2010 and subsequently re-elected in the 2014 and 18 elections. As of April 2020, he holds the shadow portfolios of Citizenship and Multicultural Affairs, Consumer Affairs, and Assistant Treasurer. Neil has been actively involved in the community for many years, serving on the board of a wide range of non-for-profit organizations, including his children's school and his local church. During the pandemic, Honorable Neil Angus, with a couple of Liberal members, held a multicultural community leaders Zoom meeting to discuss the impact of COVID-19 and strategies that we can implement to benefit multicultural community. Neil is a long-time resident of the eastern suburb, is married with 4 children, and is in spare time enjoy family activities, cycling, walking, and he's a good friend of community as well. So Neil, please come on the stage.
Well, thank you for that kind introduction, and assalamu alaikum. I'd like to begin by acknowledging numbers of the distinguished guests that are here with us today. Mr. Mubashir Khalid, the President, the Honourable Luke Donnellan, the Minister for Child Protection, Minister for Disability, Ageing and Carers, my parliamentary colleague and friend, Mr. Brad Betten, the Member for Gembrook, the Shadow Minister for Youth, Justice, Crime and Crime Prevention, Mr. Raj Kumar, the Consul General of India here in Melbourne, the many councillors, CFA members and other distinguished guests that are here today with us. And ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I want to wish everybody here today a wonderful Australia Day celebration. And it really is a great pleasure to be able to come and be with you on this great day. As I was driving in, I couldn't help but be impressed by not only the wonderful facility that you have here, but also by the numerous Australian flags fluttering in the rather strong breeze that was out there earlier on today. And what a wonderful sight that was. So I want to extend my thanks to the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community Victoria for their hard work and dedication in organising this event. This day is a reflection on the commitment with which you serve the Muslim community and work to share this culture and heritage with the broader community here in Victoria. Your inclusive and generous approach to celebrating multicultural diversity in Victoria is to be commended, as is the enormous contribution that our state's Muslim community has made to every facet of life here in Victoria. Australia Day is a wonderful time to recognise the many different communities that have made this country such a wonderful place to live. It is an opportunity to reflect on our beginnings as a nation and to remember that we are a multicultural society that is built on the contribution from those who have come from across the world to settle on our shores. We are privileged to live in such a peaceful community in which every citizen is afforded the rights and responsibilities that continue to ensure that we are one of the most harmonious and socially cohesive nations. Despite our many differences, our collective identity as Australians is something we all share, and we heard eloquently from previous speakers in relation to that already this afternoon. So too do we share the exciting future of our country, a place of such vibrancy and opportunity that we so often stand as the envy of the world. What better day is there than Australia Day to remind ourselves of the great fortune we have enjoyed, whether through birth or through seeking citizenship, to call this great nation our home. The Liberal Nationals are proud to support diversity, whether cultural or religious, ethnic or linguistic. We are proud of our backgrounds, stories, traditions, cultures, religions and languages. We are proud of our reputation for harnessing the many benefits of multiculturalism to make our communities stronger. While there is much to be proud of, the Liberal Nationals believe that more can be done to improve multicultural affairs in this state, and it is imperative that we all have the right to express our culture, our religious and spiritual beliefs, and our heritage without fear or prejudice. While there are challenges, it must be acknowledged that we enjoy a strong level of community harmony, cohesion, and quality of life. Here in Victoria, multiculturalism has worked because we have genuinely embraced it. We live in a strong and unified society where both emerging and established communities provide the necessary ingredients for a vibrant and cohesive society. So, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I wish all of you here and the entire community a safe and enjoyable Australia Day celebration and a prosperous and joyful year ahead. I also once again congratulate and thank the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community Victoria and all the volunteers who have made this event possible for bringing us all together today. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. We are indeed proud Australians as it gives us the religious freedom and the social freedom, and we are proud and we are happy that we are living in the country which is the best. The third presenter of today is Luke Donnellan. Full name, Luke Anthony Donnellan, a strong voice for the local community. He's a state member for Narrabeen North in the Legislative Assembly of Victoria Parliament in 2002. He was re-elected in 2006, 10, 14, and 2018. Luke became Minister for Child Protection and Minister for Disability, Aging and Carers in the Daniel Andrews government in November 2018. Luke previously served as a Minister for Roads and Road Safety in 2014 and 18, Minister for Ports in 2014 and 18, and Parliamentary Secretary to the Premier in 2007 and 10. Luke earned a Bachelor of Commerce from the University of Melbourne. While at university, he competed with the University of Melbourne rowing team. After finishing, Luke worked in the finance industry as a client service manager involved in tax, finance, and real estate. Luke is married to Charlotte, and together they have two sons, Ben and Sebastian. For recreation, Luke enjoys going to cricket and football with his boys, as well as running and gardening. One of our external affairs representatives, Aziz Umar Saab, met him a couple of days ago at MCG with his family, and where he told Aziz that he was a good hockey player as well, and shared his length about his vision of new health projects and aged care facility. Please put your hands together and welcome Luke.
Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we stand and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Also acknowledge them as the longest living civilisation in the world and how fortunate we are to be on their lands. I won't go through all the other acknowledgements. I think Neil did a marvellous job of doing that. So to other people who weren't acknowledged, members of the CFA, members of the Ahmadiyya community, the President, Haj Kaza, Abdul and Isa for their marvellous speeches, which I would have been terrified at that age to actually get up here and talk, but well done. But I guess Australia Day for me as a minister in the state government after what we've been through this year has really been a celebration for me of the community, the efforts of the community to get on top of the COVID-19 situation. To be blunt in terms of the generosity, in terms of all those people who are working on the front line, whether they're nurses, people in aged care, child protection, police, and so forth. For me, and also in many ways the volunteers that supported one another through food relief and alike. In many ways I think that really is Australia, the fact of pulling together, supporting one another and giving to one another. And I think more than anything else we are an incredibly diverse community. We're a community with many faiths, many people from far and wide, literally from the United Nations, of nations. And I think that diversity is something, a strength for this state and for this country. I think it's something I've always embraced, being a diplomat's child, because I love the stories of people coming from far and wide and why they've made this place their home. And the Ahmadiyya community I very much do embrace the area, the environment they're in. If it's tree planting days with the Friends of Frog Hollow, up in the Donnellan Ranges the last time round, the Ahmadiyya community was out there planting trees with me and many others and contributing to the community. And I think that's just so important. If you look at His Holiness, who's obviously the leader of the Ahmadiyya community, the work he does with other faiths around the world seeking peace, with faith leaders of all faiths, with an intent to obviously bring peace to the world. So I think I'm very proud to represent the Ahmadiyya community in my seat of Narre Warren North. They do contribute enormously because they embrace the community they're in. They love the community and they're loyal to that community. So I think what more could you ask of a community that comes here, settles here, than to get involved, give and contribute. I really couldn't ask any more. And I will acknowledge there's obviously many people, or some people obviously not being here today watching online, so I probably should have acknowledged you. But I think this Australia Day, it is about acknowledging the community. It's about acknowledging one another and the support that people have given one another during this incredibly difficult period. Incredibly difficult and very draining for so many people. But I think above all else, we've got it managed. Now, whether that'll stay managed, I can't predict the future, but it's only through the hard work of everybody in this room and everybody in our community that we're actually there. So we only succeed as a community. We fail if we act as individuals. So, look, really, I can't say anything more than that, apart from the fact that on this Australia Day, I'm just so proud of the Victorian community, what you've done. I'm so proud of what the Ahmadiyya community contributes to my community. And really, I don't think I could very much ask any more that every person who makes their home here in Australia, it's about giving to one another, and that's very much what we've done this year, and I congratulate you all for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luke. It's a tradition of our community to recognize the community leaders, friends, organizations for their hard work and dedication. Before I start the formal proceedings, I would like to request the Minister for Religions for Ahmadiyya Muslim Community to please come on the stage and join me for presenting the awards. Imam Badud Janood. Yeah, it's coming. Our first recognition shield for today is your local community friend, Bridget Parekh, a family and community-oriented person, volunteer, and a strong advocate for our local Cardinia community. He is a resident of Cardinia Shire for more than 11 years. Bridget has a craving for serving the community regardless of race and creed. He is a strong advocate of integration of communities. He has been honored for his craving in serving the community. 2019 Victorian Premier's Volunteer Champion Award, La Trobe Australia Day Award for 2019-20, Gembrook Community Awards 2019, and also recently nominated for the Cardinia Shire Citizen of the Year Australia Day Awards. He is not afraid to speak up on matters that benefit the communities, due to which he is elected as the Secretary and Treasurer of RMIT Student Union. He is currently active volunteer in committees and different organizations such as CFA, Lakeside Group, Pakenham Cricket Club, Cardinia Neighborhood Watch, and many other. So please put your hands together for Prajal Parekh. Prajal, if you like to add a couple of sentences, please.
It's such an honor to receive this award, and I thank Ahmadiyya Muslim Community, who's always supported me, and my good friends Tariq Bhai, Fakir Bhai, and few others out here. I'm really honored, and I thank the community very much. I wish you all a happy, prosperous year further ahead, and yes, we'll work together that will benefit the community. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prajal, and you deserve it. Our second recognition for today is for our local leader who is there to help anybody, anytime, and is directly in contact with many of the multicultural communities and a phone calls away from them, helping and encouraging, whether it's bushfire, animal welfare, or any other community who needs help, regardless of background and religious inclination. During the last year pandemic, we saw a completely new aspect of Jason when he came lengths to help different communities. We saw people stuck overseas or family members wanting to join the funeral overseas, directly calling him for help. And within days, the issues are resolved, and Jason proved to be one man's army. He's not here to receive the award, but I would like to request Andrew McNabb to please come and have the shield on his behalf. Andrew McNabb. Minister. Thank you. Would you like to add something? Yeah.
Thank you, Tariq. On behalf of the Minister, I'm sure he'll appreciate this award. He certainly acknowledges the work that this community does in Victoria, and as Multicultural Minister, he's well and truly in touch with all the multiculturals. Unfortunately, he's on his way to Canberra, up to the big house, because Parliament's sitting this week, but I'll take this award on and pass it on to him, and thank you very much again.
And he's gracefully recorded a message for us as well, which we'll present later. Our next recognition is for the organization CFA. We would like to acknowledge and appreciate the incredible work that is being carried out by our CFA members. CFA volunteers have been serving the wider Australian community for more than 70 years now, and with rising temperatures around the world and in Australia, their work is far more important than ever before. 2019 and 20's Black Summer that left 34 deaths and over 400 injured, over 1 billion wildlife burned alive, and approximately thousands of hectares of area burned, and a fire season that costed 103 billion Australian dollars to the economy. CFA works requires far more highlight, and we must appreciate and help them whatever way we all can. let us all put our hands together for the dedication and risk of life that they had taken to protect our life. I welcome Jamie Henson, Assistant Chief Fire Officer, to please come on the stage and receive the shield. Would you like to add some words, please?
Thank you, and peace be upon you all. First of all, I just want to thank you for the recognition of the Country Fire Authority and for welcoming us here today to be part of your celebration. Excuse me. So I'm here today representing CFA from District 8, which is essentially 3,500 volunteers that every single day give up their time to serve the community. That extends from Edith Vale to Gembrook, down to Wonthaggi, Phillip Island, French Island, the Mornington Peninsula, excuse me, and everywhere in between. It comprises 75 brigades that do over 10,000 calls a year. And all those calls are to support local communities just like yours. We're very proud in District 8 to represent over 160 countries of birth within our district. So when we talk about diversity, I'm not sure that it gets much more than that. And it's certainly something that we celebrate and that we acknowledge that we need to embrace more. So whether it's the storytelling from Aboriginal Dreamtime or the Holy Quran, we believe that there is a message and learnings for all of us to take hold of, to make not only CFA a better place, but Victoria and Australia. For me, Australia Day represents the spirit of volunteering and community connection. It's this time last year, I was still down in Gippsland talking with communities that were completely and utterly devastated by fire. And one of the things that I recognised about that was that there were communities from my district, diverse communities, culturally very, very different from Gippsland, that were out there volunteering their time to try and build fences, but also to cook and feed our fire crews and people that were essentially without a home, with nowhere to stay, no kitchen to cook in. That for me is the beauty of Australia Day. It's people like yourselves, it's the diverse communities right across Victoria that come together and give us all a chop out when we need it. So on behalf of CFA, thank you.
Thank you very much. Our last community recognition for today is for our health workers. Ladies and gentlemen, 2020 was not an ordinary year. It shook the world in many ways. A deadly pandemic that brought economic hardships and tested our limits. We, the Victorian, were hit hard when the cases went into hundreds within a matter of few days. A curfew had to be imposed and things were looking out of control. Right in the middle of the crisis, Peninsula Health, and especially Frankston Hospital, became the epicenter of outbreak in healthcare workers. We all read and heard the news of 600 plus healthcare workers at Frankston Hospital were furloughed and they were asked to isolate, and new cases increase every day. Ms. Felicity Top, CEO of Peninsula Health, was on our TV screens and in the newspaper day in and day out. It was indeed a difficult time for all of us. I don't need to go in many details of how bravely the staff at Frankston Hospital fought this far, and on many fronts they deserve our best regards and a sincere thank you for all what they did, and reality is that nothing could pay them for what they did to keep us safe. We are honored that we have CEO of Peninsula Health, Miss Felicity Top, with us, and we request her to please come on the stage and accept a small token of gratitude, respect, and thank you from all of our community members. Miss Felicity Top. And now, on behalf of Ahmadiyya Muslim Community Victoria, I would like to request the Minister to present another small token from our community members to the Peninsula Health, a check of $5,000, and we hope and pray that this may be the first donation, but not the last. Would you like to say a few words, please, Fancy, after receiving that?
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome. Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you so much for the Ahmadiyya community for such a generous donation and recognition to the 6,500 staff that work at Peninsula Health. I've worked in health for 35 years, and I can say I've never had a year like I had last year. And I could say probably every other health worker hasn't had a year like they've had in the past 12 months. Incredibly difficult and stressful, but every day was a day where I was proud. I was proud where those staff came to work every morning, every night, afternoon, and worked at the front line to care for our community. It was the nurses and the doctors and the allied health staff, but it was also our cleaners, our kitchen staff, our theatre techs, our car park attendants, and the people who worked at the screening clinics and testing clinics. They gave their time, they volunteered their time, they worked hard, and they were so incredibly brave. Many of our staff were also having to manage the situation at home, where they had their kids or other family members who were in isolation. And it was difficult for many, many people to try and juggle their commitment to their work in the healthcare sector or in the hospital, but also their care for their family members. One of the things that did make me incredibly proud was how well the community came together when Frankston Hospital was having their outbreak back in August. Every community leader down on the Mornington and Frankston Peninsula reached out to me and to the staff and supported them. There wasn't a day where I didn't feel like I didn't have somebody who had our back, and I think that was so incredibly important. But it's also so incredibly Australian. I didn't feel as though I was managing or leading the organisation on my own. So to all of you, to the whole community, thank you for your incredibly generous donation, but more importantly for your support during a very difficult year. And I'm so glad we're at 0 days for many, many, many days. And I hope we manage to get through this year calmly with the vaccination rolling out in the next few months, and that we see the end of this virus. So thanks again for your support, and thanks again to the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. Thank you.
Thanks, Felicity. We are all proud of our health workers, and we thank them again for all their services. Our next presenter from our community is a bright child from our community, Summer Usman, and the topic he's presenting today is Proud Australian. So, Summer Usman.
In the name of Allah, the gracious, ever merciful, respected presidents, honorable guests, and dear elders, Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. I am really grateful of this opportunity that I got to share my views on this occasion. The topic is close to my heart and relevant to today, which is Proud Australian. I, Samar Usman, a proud Australian Muslim, born in Melbourne, blessed with a caring elder sister and a cheeky younger brother. My parents migrated to Australia 13 years ago. It was not easy for them to come to a new country, but they made a decision for a better future. Dear guests, my father and mother are both architects. I saw them work very hard to make new life in this country, and in return, I witnessed this wonderful country repaying them for their hard work. I can proudly say that throughout my school, I have been offered opportunities based on my abilities. I am proud to share that I was one of the 4 boys chosen among 130 students to get a place in John Monash School of Science program for 1 year of research projects. Indeed, it was a proud moment for me and my family. We should all work united for the development of our country. We Ahmadiyya Muslims do celebrate Australia Day every year to show our loyalty and love for our nation. It's not just for the Muslims. We would love you all and other members of the public to come and enjoy it with us. The intention of loyalty to homeland is to profess the Ahmadiyya movement's love of Australia with the Holy Prophet Muhammad's declaration 1,400 years ago that the love of one's country is a part of faith. Our 5th Khalifa, His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, may Allah be his helper, has said, "True loyalty requires a relationship built on sincerity and integrity. It requires what a person displays on the surface as the same what lies beneath. In terms of nationality, these principles are of the utmost importance. Therefore, it is essential for any citizen of any country to establish a relationship of genuine loyalty and faithfulness to his nation. I have the good fortune to travel to many places in the world, and I can honestly say no one has a country like us. This wonderful nation is home to many different cultures, living together harmoniously. It doesn't matter where you come from. Being an Australian for me means wanting to be mates with everyone. It means wanting to live in peace and harmony with each other, being free and independent, giving a helping hand when needed, treating everyone fairly and enjoying the great game of footy. Dear guests, I can confidently say that I am a proud Australian Muslim. Long live Australia. Happy Australia Day. Stay safe and stay well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samar. We should all need to work united. We all need to work work unitedly for the betterment of our country, and with loyalty, we can achieve this. Our next presenter is Mr. Nuruddin, and the topic of his presentation is What Australia Day Means for Me. So, Brother Nuruddin. Put your hands together, please.
Good afternoon, and peace be on you all, fellow Australians and honorable guests. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful, I thank the organizers of this event for giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts on what Australia Day means to me. A couple of years back, there was a sequence of events that gave me the occasion to actually reflect on what Australia Day meant to me. What Australia Day means to me can be summarized in 2 lines. First, it is a day for the celebration of human diversity and unity. Second, Australia Day is a time to pause, reflect, and be grateful for what Australia has given us. I will proceed to explain how and why I came to these positions. Up to the age of 9, I lived in a small town in Ghana, in West Africa, and I could neither speak nor read English. In the local language, the word Obroni was the name for the foreigner with a lighter skin complexion. The Obroni that I saw often was the Ahmadiyya missionary from the Indian subcontinent. Occasionally, an Obroni from Europe, as I later realized, would stop and ask for the road that leads to the capital city. At the time, to me, there was no difference between the Obroni from the Indian subcontinent and the Obroni from Europe. They all looked the same. As the innocence wore off, I came to learn that there are so many varieties of Obroni. Africans, I came to learn, have more genetic variations than anyone else in the world. The human story became of interest to me. Over time, I realized that I have surrounded myself with books on archaeology, history, and genetics. With the advancement in scientific research, particularly in DNA sequencing, recent genetic studies suggest that all humans living today are related to each other. It goes on to suggest that we all descended from a common female ancestor who lived around 200,000 years ago. If you take a bird's eye view and trace the human journey forward to the present day, it appears there is a story in the making. Are we coming back for a good reason? Do we need to celebrate this reunion? The first day I attended and participated in an Australia Day parade in the city, I was there as part of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association team. What I witnessed on that day created a mental picture of what Australia Day meant to me. What I witnessed was a celebration of different cultures, different religions, and people from different ethnic backgrounds, united together in celebrating Australia Day, celebrating those diverse cultures and ethnicity, the beauty of the human race that made up Australia. In those differences was the beauty. If you reflect on it, a celebration in Australia is well-deserved. If you compare Australia to other developed multicultural and multi-ethnic countries, Australia has relatively been able to handle this reunion better. People from different cultural, religious, and ethnic backgrounds are living peacefully and respectfully together. Australia Day to me means a day for the celebration of human diversity and unity, which Australia rightfully represents. As pointed out earlier, Australia Day to me also serves as a time to pause, reflect, and be grateful for what Australia has given us. It is a great blessing to live in Australia and also be an Australian citizen. Other speakers are likely to talk about some of the numerous blessings of living in Australia and being an Australian citizen. For that matter, I do not intend to delve into this. To put my topic into context, I will cite two examples. I arrived in Australia in March 2007 as a skilled migrant. I had no relatives living in Australia. After 2 years, I became an Australian citizen. 5 years after arrival, I decided to start a business from scratch with a colleague. Today, I can proudly say that that business employs more than 50 people in Victoria and has more than 50 office locations across Australia. A living proof of the equality of opportunities that Australia offers to its immigrants. I remember when I first came to Australia and was looking for a house to rent, I had migrated from England, where the houses are relatively smaller. I inspected this house in Croydon, a 2-bedroom unit with a big backyard. Genuinely, it appeared like a castle to me. I expressed my feeling about it so much that the landlord was stunned about it. I was not the only person who came to inspect the property, but he decided to rent the property to me, probably to enable me to live in this castle and be the king that I was meant to be. A few years later, we built our own house, which was bigger and more modern. There have been a few occasions where we have searched for that house on the internet and seen some images of it. I then wondered why I saw it as a castle back then, as there appears to be nothing so special about it. I ended up concluding that we get accustomed to what we are blessed with. And that is why it is important to take a break, reflect, and be grateful for what Australia has blessed us with. It has granted us an opportunity to live the royal life. We need to be grateful. And showing gratitude and appreciation is good for our mental welfare. Australia Day gives us that opportunity to pause, reflect, listen to some of these speeches, and be grateful to Australia for what Australia has blessed us with. How do I show gratitude to Australia? First, it is by being a law-abiding citizen. As an example, during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, I have put up my best both as an employer and as part of my family unit in ensuring that all guidelines provided by appropriate authorities are followed to help avoid the spread of COVID-19. There is also a need to regularly give back to the Australian community. In that regard, I give a lot of credit to the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association for regularly reminding us and our children of our obligations to Australia and providing us the platform to serve the Australian community. Every year, my children and I take part in National Tree Plantation Day events, Clean Up Australia Day events, Australian Red Cross collection drives, and many more. I mentioned earlier that a sequence of events gave me an occasion to reflect on what Australia Day meant to me. It started on an Australia Day parade in the city. We were there to distribute some leaflets on peace and loyalty to Australia. After the parade, I handed a leaflet to an Indigenous Australian who was walking to the parade grounds and wished him a happy Australia Day. He accepted it out of politeness, but did not respond back. Through some of my business associations, I started attending an annual charity event that had the vision that every Australian understands, appreciates, and values Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander history and culture, so that it becomes an integral part of the Australian identity. Through attending these events, I came to understand what the particular day meant for our Indigenous Australian brothers and sisters. I am briefly mentioning this so that we understand a complete picture and put in special efforts to embrace all Australians in the celebrations. In sum, to me, Australia Day means a celebration of human diversity and unity, which Australia rightfully represents, and a time to pause, reflect, and be grateful for what Australia has given us. In this sense, Australia Day is not necessarily confined to a particular day. I wish you all a happy Australia Day celebration. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Nuruddin. We all need to show our appreciation and gratitude and show our loyalty to our country, which gives us so much. Our next guest speaker for this afternoon is Councillor Colin Ross from Central Ward, Cardinia City Council. His face is not new to our community. He has been to many of our past community events and supported the community wherever he can. He's a family man with 4 kids and lived and worked in Beckenham. He is recently reappointed as Councillor for the Central Ward Cardinia Council for 2020-24. Let us all welcome and hear from Colin Ross. Thank you very much.
I won't go through all the dignitaries who are here today, but thank you very much for attending. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land in which we stand. I believe it would be the Wurundjeri people, because the Bunurong people in our area are further more north. So we acknowledge the original owners of the land, and we acknowledge their elders past, present and emerging. What does Australia Day mean to us? I really love that song, We Are One, But We Are Many. It acknowledges the first persons of Australia in the first paragraph that it sings about. It really acknowledges the thousands of years that they gave to this country. And then after that, it acknowledges all the different people who came to our country after that. For those people, we are a very young country. I'll take you on a small journey on what I think Australia is and Australia Day. First of all, I would like to acknowledge, like I did at Kuirup on Australia Day morning, all those heroes in our community over this COVID-19 pandemic. It was spoken about the heroes in the health sector, all the way from doctors, nurses, all the people who clean the hospitals, they bring the food to the hospitals. Also too, my wife was a worker in the education department for the essential services workers. So therefore, those people who went to schools and met people face by face, they didn't know, like health workers, who was sick and who wasn't sick. So they risked their lives every day to get infected. And they didn't know whether they were taking it home to their families. Also too, there's other people in our community who need to be acknowledged too. At the supermarkets, if you saw those people on the cash registers, they didn't know who was coming through. They had to put up screens and masks and everything. The people who delivered the food, the people who delivered services, they are our heroes. They kept us safe and they risked all for us. So I must acknowledge all of those people in that area, because they have been absolutely wonderful and they have kept us safe by putting themselves at risk. I must say, and at the back of this, there is not one other country in the world that you would rather be in through this pandemic than us. If you have a look at the second wave that came through, no one has conquered it like we have. Anyone can't believe that we had over 700 a day infections and we went to 0, and we did it twice. So I just applaud everybody, and that's because everybody took it seriously. Everybody did. For those health workers and the people in education and everything else, they relied upon us to try and do the right thing to keep them safe. So I would just like to mention that at the beginning. I've been attending interfaith groups, the interfaith group at council for the last 12 years. And I must say, when you have a look through all the different faiths, there is a lot of commonality between a whole lot of us. Whether you believe someone might be the Messiah, whether he's a prophet, whether he's a good person who gives an example in the community. If you have a look at the first 5 books of the Bible, the Quran or the Torah, they're all the same. We all read from the same, until Abraham had Ishmael and Isaac. And then we believe they were all blessed and they sort of went on their ways and they did miraculous things, but it was all acknowledged. I must say, when you talk through and you have, and I've been attending your group for the last 10 years here, I must say, I did get to meet, fortunately, your head leader in the world. When I first became a councillor, you had an event down on Springvale Road, and it was in Clayton. And this man is amazing. He met every person in the room and everyone in their faith. He went to their house and he met them when he came to Australia. which was just absolutely outstanding. I just couldn't believe it, and you actually got to meet him in person. And if he is an example of your faith, right at the top, and it goes all the way through, that is just the best example that you can give. I must say your community work here, particularly in the Frankston and Langwarrin area, is absolutely outstanding. I know the council here has the highest respect for your group. From the day that you bought this establishment here and it was mentioned that it was basically derelict and, you know, it was an eyesore if people could see it, and you turned it into what it is today. And you've done an absolutely wonderful job. You contribute so much to the community. I think you gave $2,000 to the We Care program for the food during the COVID-19 pandemic, which is wonderful because those people will distribute it out to all the people out there in the community who need it most. If you have a look back on Australia's history, it's rather amazing. We had our Indigenous Australians who were here for thousands of years. Then we had the Portuguese who briefly bumped into Western Australia for a period of time. They discovered there was no water, there was lots of flies and it wasn't really inhabitable. So that they moved on their way. We had the Dutch come, and the Dutch basically had a look at the bottom of Australia and moved through. And then we had the British Commonwealth turn up here and basically do a bit of a circumnavigation and find out that there was actually livable places in the area. And from that point, we turned into Melbourne, probably Victoria, the richest country in the richest state in the world when we went through the gold rush. And you have a look through, we had Chinese people turn up here who were here back in the 1850s, and they were here because they were smarter. They actually didn't pan for gold. They actually sold all the stuff to the people who were here. So that was wonderful. So we had Chinese people turn up here originally. And then as you go through, you have a look at after the Second World War, we had a lot of Europeans turn up here to help build things like the Snowy River scheme. A lot of these people were leaving a war-torn Europe to leave everything to come here and to work and to work and to work. And I can remember when I went to school in the early 70s, there were people who were Greeks and Italians who at that stage still weren't totally accepted in Australia. But I tell you, they worked that hard and they built so much in this country. They were known to be very, very hard workers, and they built it up from nothing. And then we basically had the things that were happening in Asia. And at first the Asian people weren't accepted here either, and they were seen as offsiders. And if you want to know about my family, our eldest daughter married a chap from India, and we've got now 2 half Indian grandchildren. Our last child we adopted from China as a baby. So if you had my family up here, you'd see that we cover all the different dynamics, the cultures, and it's a wonderful thing, and it really does represent Australia in a meaningful way. I must say I had the wonderful opportunity the other year to I have worked with Afghan refugees who came by boat at a works that I worked at for years. They were in Baxter Detention Centre. Then the employer that I was employed by decided that he'd lock us out for 8.5 months. So he went to Baxter Detention Centre and he got some buses and he brought the people over to work in the meatworks where I worked. And these people, once they learned English, they were amazing people, and they've contributed so much, the Afghan people, into our country. They share how wonderful Australia is. Do you know when they talk to you, once they could speak a bit more English, they shared with you, in one night in Kabul, they had 5,000 rockets hit the town in one night. And as young people, they lay under their beds wondering if one was going to land on their house. And they say, when we sleep in Australia, we sleep the most peaceful sleep we've ever had. I must say, and I had a wonderful opportunity, I was going to mention as mayor, to go to the Sudanese National Day over at Flemington. And some of these people were really, really upset at the time that some of the people were treating them, going back a couple of years ago, extraordinarily bad. And they're all painted with the same brush. I encourage them that you have got that many good people amongst you. If you just keep doing the right thing and keep working real hard, you will be accepted in Australia just like everybody else. We know people by your works and who you are, and you're good people. And I must say that was really, they actually said to me, thank you for coming and thanking us. And I said, it's a pleasure. I said, you people are wonderful people. There was a guy, as an example of this, I'll give you one really, really good example. Going back about 3 years ago, there was a guy who won the New South Wales Citizen of the Year. And this guy, him and his brother had been in a camp in Africa for 12 years. And when he came to Australia, him and his brother couldn't speak English. Their family had been killed, his parents had been killed in Africa. And this guy went to school and he couldn't speak one word of English. He went to high school. He went through high school and he became a lawyer. And his goal was to earn enough money to pay 100 diplomas at university. And at the stage he spoke at the thing that I went to, he had paid for 10 university degrees of young people through the money that he was raising. And in fact, to show such a wonderful heart of being an Australian, the very first degree he gave out was to a female who came from the tribe who had killed his parents, the same nationality, because he wanted to show that he had no hard feelings and he really, really wanted to embrace our country. I must say one thing that is wonderful about being a counsellor is the fact that in Cardinia Shire we've had 5 to 6 families a day moving in for the last 10 years. And we'll have that for the next 10 years, of which we wouldn't have had as many citizens come as ex-councillor Rosario, who would have seen through the city of Casey that many people come through in citizenships. But I must say, I've probably seen in my 12 years 120 citizenships and probably nearly 10,000 new Australian citizens. And you've never seen anyone as excited as when you see a new Australian who gets their citizenship, because they know the depth of their background and where they've come from and where they've come to. And they know they are in the luckiest country in the world here. And just to sort of wind things up, I must say I get really frustrated when I hear people who take it against boat people or people who come, or they call them illegal immigrants. There is no such thing as an illegal immigrant. You're either a refugee, you're a migrant, or you come from that country. That's who you are. You aren't illegal. Because I can tell you, if that was the case, my family, back in the 1850s, one of them was from Sweden and he tried to stay in Melbourne and they wouldn't let him. So they went out into the bay and he jumped off the ship and he swam in. And apparently there was a book on it. There was many of them who did it, and he hid in the top of a hotel. And then he changed his name from Ship to Carlson. My grandmother was at Horded. She died at 99 and 3 months. And she didn't like telling the story because she thought it was terrible. But there's someone who would have been an illegal immigrant and probably sent back home. But unfortunately back then you couldn't go back by plane. So the boat sort of hung around for a bit to see if they could find all the people who jumped ship. And when they couldn't find them, they went back anyway. I must say, I'll just finish off by saying that I must say the group you have here would have to be the most welcoming group I think I ever attend. Right from the person who leads you at down at the front where you drive in, all the way up. You are welcomed, you're escorted to the front, and you could not feel more welcomed than what you do with other people. I must say, you are an absolute light to the community. You do a wonderful job. Your faith just shines outside of you. And I must say, after meeting your leader, I think it's a true reflection of all of you. Australia Day is so many things to so many people. I hope I've shared a little bit of my concept on what I think of Australia Day. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Colin Ross, for such a wonderful words. And I think we all need to recognize the efforts of our essential workers, whether they are shopkeepers, policemen, whosoever is out there in the front line to face the risk. So we all acknowledge our essential workers for that. So our next speaker for today is Honorable Jason Wood. He is a member of Liberal Party and has been Assistant Minister for Customs, Community Safety and Multicultural Affairs in Morrison government, May 2019. He represents the division of La Trobe in Victoria, which he has held since 2013 and previously from 2004 to 2010. Wood was educated at the Chisholm Institute, Swinburne University, and RMIT University, Melbourne, and has the qualification in management, including master's degree in applied sciences. He was a senior sergeant with the Victorian Police Counter-Terrorism Unit before entering politics. Jason lived in La Trobe for over 40 years and shared a strong affinity with the local community. He's a very close friend of our community and just a phone calls away in time of need. Unfortunately, he's unable to join us because of his prior commitment, but he recorded a video message which we'll be playing now.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Assalam or alaikum to all. Thank you, Imam Inam al-Haq Qasar, local missionary Wadud Janud, President, and the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community Victoria for this very kind invitation to attend your Australian Day celebrations. Regretfully, I'm unable to attend as in fact en route to Parliament House, Canberra. Australia Day on the 26th of January is an opportunity for all Australians to come together as a nation to reflect, respect and celebrate. We reflect on our history, its highs and sadly its lows. We respect the stories of others and we celebrate our national, its achievements and most of all, its people. All Australians are encouraged to celebrate our National Day and to share what Australian citizenship means to them. We can be proud of who we are as a nation. Our history and culture has been forged over thousands of years, first by the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and more recently through welcoming migrants from right across the world. Prime Minister Scott Morrison recently amended the second line of our national anthem, Advance Australia Fair, to for we are young and free, to for we are one and free. This change recognises that our national story is drawn from more than 300 national ancestries and language groups, and that we are the most successful multicultural nation on earth. Australian citizenship ceremonies are an important part of our nation's celebrations and hold special significance for those becoming citizens and the broader Australian community. Traditionally, more people become citizens on Australia Day than any other day of the year. And this day, on the 26th of January, again we had 12,000 people from more than 130 nations who were invited to become and accepted to become Australian citizens. Today, as part of your Australian celebrations on this Sunday, I ask that you pause, reflect on the past year, to recognise the tremendous resilience of our people and the courage and selflessness of those who worked on the front lines fighting fires and floods and responding to the global pandemic. These challenging times have had a unifying effect amongst our communities, seeing people from diverse faiths, cultures and backgrounds supporting one another in this great time of need. I feel a sense of deep pride when I hear the countless stories of our multicultural communities working together in a wide variety of ways. I recall that in an effort to support the communities during Victoria's COVID-19 lockdown, many Muslim women and men volunteered to prepare free meals for anyone who was hungry. They helped people from all walks of life, including students, families and refugees. I'd also like to pass on my sincere thanks to all the healthcare workers in attendance here tonight. I've been told there's a number. And thank you for everything you've done during this awful COVID-19 pandemic. Your efforts to combat the effect of the pandemic are greatly appreciated by all Australians. Also, during the devastating bushfires last year, the Muslim community, as well as so many other multicultural communities, greatly supported the CFA in their efforts to fight fires and provide food and support. And again, can I congratulate the CFA members there tonight at your great event and thank them for everything they do to make Australians safe. These stories demonstrate how our country is better and stronger because of our multicultural and multifold heritage. We are successful because we embrace our culture and our religious diversity. Australia is a nation of many faiths and religions. It is important in the lives of many Australians, providing solace, guidance and a sense of community. I congratulate the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association Victoria for providing this opportunity today for communities to celebrate together as Australians, our shared values, our people and our great nation, the best place on the planet to live. Have a great afternoon. All the best. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Our final presenter for today is Honourable Betten. Bradley William Betten is a member of Gembrook in the Victorian Legislative Assembly from 2010. Betten was promoted to Shadow Cabinet in 2014 as the Shadow Minister for Emergency Services and Environment. In 2017, he was appointed the first Victorian Shadow Minister for the building industry while still retaining the emergency services portfolio. In 2020, Betten moved to Shadow Minister for Youth Justice, Shadow Minister for Crime Prevention, Shadow Minister for Victim Support, Shadow Minister for Roads, Shadow Minister for Road Safety and Tech. He was formerly a police officer and owned a bakery in Wheelers Hill. Betten obtained a diploma in public safety policing with the Victorian Police and a graduate diploma in adolescent health and welfare from the University of Melbourne. In 2020, Betten completed a graduate certificate in business. Brad and his wife, Joanne, have 2 young children and are long-term resident of Gembrook. He has spoken on the issue of youth suicide on various occasions and targets raising further awareness about this. Brad Betten is working hard to deliver results for the local communities and aim to ensure everyone has the services, opportunities, and security they rightly deserve. Let's all welcome Brad Betten.
Thank you very much for that warm welcome, and it's a great pleasure to be here amongst friends. And I will first like to say we were talking in relation to Australia Day, how important the day is to myself and I know many people in my community. And listening to the speakers today, the one thing that I find interesting when you're listening to the difference between adults and children like Abdul and Asiya who were speaking earlier on. Adults talk about tolerance and acceptance. Children talk about us. And I think your community is the prime example of talking about us. The awards that you've handed out today to my good friend Jason Wood for the work he's done with many people in this room, to my very good friend who was sitting over here, Brijal, who I see at every multi-faith organisation that I go to because he believes in the community and he believes in people. To the hospitals and to the CFA and the work they've done through our communities is absolutely splendid. We just can't thank them enough. But the one thing that I heard when I was listening to Abdul speak, other than Abdul, I share an absolute love of barbecues like yourself. The one thing I heard was when he was talking about giving back to the community. And whilst, yes, when we give back to the community, any person can give back to the community. But so often when we go around to places and we visit people and we see in times of need, it's faith groups that have the numbers, have the people and have the power and the desire to go back into that community and give back. When the firefighters are out there fighting the fires, we've seen the Sikh community, the Muslim communities throughout Victoria whether it's cooking food, making sure there's water, collecting food for the communities, housing, everything that they can do goes so far. And one of those small things that comes back as a memory of mine when I went up through the fires, up through northern Victoria in about 2015, was a gentleman there with his wife. And he spoke to me. He was a Muslim man, and he was a very proud Muslim man. And he'd closed his business. And he had his staff and himself with a portable kitchen ready to cook for anyone in the community that needed food. And he kept that business closed for around about 30 or 35 days. That's a big commitment, not just in cost, but in time. But what he did was give back to that community and reassure that it was about people and power that support our local communities. It was a person like him that sent the faith community a really positive message that we need people like this all the way throughout Victoria. Now, we put on Facebook, because obviously if it's not on Facebook, it doesn't happen, we know these days. We put that on Facebook. That was shared 500,000 times in a period of 12 hours. And it was why? Because people believe and want to thank those that help us. So to the Ahmadiyya community, thank you for everything you do throughout my electorate, throughout the electorates of every person here, and I know I speak on behalf of Jason as well, all the way through Latrobe and Gembrook. We appreciate everything you do. To everyone else here, no matter your faith, no matter your religion, no matter your culture, where you were born, thank you, and make sure that the best thing you can do in Australia is give back, because that's what makes us the #1 country in the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brad. We have no doubt that we are living in the best country of the world, and we are so proud of it. Now I would like to call Mr. Wadood Janood, the Minister for Religion for Ahmadiyya Muslim Association, for the concluding remarks. Mr. Saeed Wadood Janood is the Minister of Religion for Ahmadiyya Muslim Community in Victoria, Tasmania, and Northern Territory. Originally from Adelaide, South Australia, after high school, he received his degree in Islamic theology and comparative religions from Jamia Ahmadiyya, Toronto, Canada. He has served as the Minister of Religion in Queensland, Liberia, West Africa, and Solomon Islands. So let's please welcome Saeed Wadood Janood for the concluding remarks.
نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم وعلى عبده المسيح الموعود أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Distinguished guests, our members of Parliament from both Labour and Liberal, members of the local council, Frankston Council, as well as Cardinia and others, respected Councillor General of India, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May peace and blessings of God be upon you all. It is a tremendous honor to speak before such an auspicious gathering, celebrating something so dear to me. But before I do so, the CFO of Peninsula Health, can I just say the care that I personally received, me and my family received, from Frankston Hospital, it was second to none. And to this day, I sing the praises of the maternity ward of Frankston Hospital anywhere I go. By the grace of God, we're blessed with our first child who was born at the end of 2019. So I know the kind of work and the amazing work you guys do at Peninsula Health. I stand before you as the Imam of Ahmadiyya Muslim Community in Victoria and Tasmania, and I also represent Northern Territory. However, indulge me as I speak before you as a young boy who grew up in the southern hills or the rolling hills of Adelaide. In the introduction, perhaps the best thing that was mentioned was that I'm from Adelaide, the home of the greatest football club, Adelaide Crows. Human nature is such that we take things for granted very easily. We fail to truly appreciate certain aspects and certain things in our life, till quite often it is too late. We realize the significance and importance of those things, our love and attachment to them, only when we are separated from them. It is true what they say, that absence is to love as wind is to fire. If you just take a moment and ponder, you will realize how true this is. I experienced something similar in my years away I spent away from home. For nearly 8 years, I had the opportunity to travel the world while I was studying in Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, in those 8 years, I traveled through the Americas, Europe, Asia, and even Africa. I witnessed and saw everything this world had to offer, yet something was missing. Not a single day went by where I did not find myself dreaming of the blue skies and golden sunsets. Frankly, not a single day went by where I did not find myself thinking about Australia. It was truly in those years away that I realized how true the old saying is, east or west, home is the best. Ladies and gentlemen, but when I returned to a different Australia to that which I grew up in. I returned to an Australia where over 48% of Australians held negative sentiments in regards to Islam and Muslims. I returned to an Australia where nearly 49% of Australians did not want or desire for a Muslim to be an Australian or an Aussie. In this day and age of growing Islamophobia and demonization of Muslims in our mainstream media, we are often portrayed to have misplaced loyalties. Are we Muslims first or are we Australians first? That is a question that is often asked. This toxic question is posed in an effort to prove that Muslims have misplaced loyalties. However, nothing could be further from the truth. These identities, they coexist and express themselves simultaneously. In fact, the religious identity cannot prosper without the national identity. Ladies and gentlemen, you see, in the years away, I realized that my longing and my attachment to Australia was twofold. As a boy who grew up in Adelaide, and as a Muslim who called Australia home. As a young Aussie Muslim, I was taught that one of the most fundamental teachings of Islam by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is hubbul watni min al-iman. That love and loyalty to the country of your residence is part of your faith. Therefore, in order for my religious identity to prosper, my national identity had to be sound. But how does one express love and loyalty? How does one express love and loyalty? By what measure do we judge this? Is it in the number of Australian flags we have erected around the mosque? Is it the barbecue or the sausage sizzle or the cuisine that we consume on the 26th? Is it the proficiency of our language? Is it the proficiency of English? Is it our attire and our clothes? Perhaps thongs and a singlet. Perhaps it's the beverage that we consume. Ladies and gentlemen, for us, Ahmadiyya Muslims of Australia, love and loyalty have a profound meaning and implications. It means service, and action. Mother Teresa puts this beautifully. She says that love cannot remain by itself. It has no meaning. Love has to be put in action, and that action is service. Our love and loyalty to Australia is professed through our actions and our services. It is professed in our mosques and in our homes around Australia. It is professed through raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for Red Cross door knock appeal every year. It is professed through planting thousands of trees in over 23 sites across Australia every year. It is professed through feeding thousands of homeless every year. It is professed through 1,000 volunteers collecting rubbish for a combined 5,000 hours on Clean Up Australia Day every year. It is professed through raising thousands of dollars for organizations such as Salvation Army and Cancel Council every year. It is professed through hundreds of bags of donations. It is professed through hundreds of bags of blood donations, potentially saving more than 900 lives every year. It is professed through providing over 150 volunteers who spent over 1,000 hours cleaning during the Queensland floods. It is professed through relief work during the bushfires and, unfortunately, the current pandemic. His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmed, the worldwide head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community, whilst commenting on this, he mentions, sincere patriotism is a requirement in Islam. To truly love God, Islam requires a person to love his nation. It is quite clear that there can be no conflict of interest between a person's love for God and love for his nation, as love for one's country has been made a part of Islam. It is quite clear that a Muslim must strive to reach the highest standards of loyalty to his chosen country, because this is a means of reaching God and becoming closer to him. Ladies and gentlemen, and my dear friends, no doubt Australia Day is a time of celebration, and rightly so. But I believe, and more importantly so, Australia Day should be a time of reflection and gratefulness. In the Holy Quran, God teaches Muslims that if you're grateful, His blessings will be increased upon you. Thus, when celebrating Australia Day, in the heat and in the barbecues, and cricket and footy and outdoors, whether at the beach or in your backyard, amongst your family or friends, pause. Pause for a moment and take into account where you live. Pause and be grateful. Be grateful for everything around you. Be grateful for Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, in the end, I again emphasize the point that let us not wait to be separated from something to realize its importance and significance. Let us hold dear to it. Let us cherish it. And let us serve it. I end with these amended words of J.F. Kennedy, which have been recorded in history at his inaugural presidential ceremony in 1961. And I amended them to show the spirit of what love and loyalty means to us as Ahmadiyya Muslims. Ask not what Australia can do for you. Ask what you can do for Australia. Wa akhiru dawana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. May peace and blessings of God be upon you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Medusa. If you can join us for the silent praise as well, please. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the bearer of good news. On the other side of this is the wonderful dinner that has been prepared for all of you guys. You can probably smell the fragrance. So all of that dinner is being prepared on premises in our commercial kitchens downstairs. Shortly, I will ask everyone to join me in a silent prayer. It is the tradition of Muslims and within Islam that whenever we conclude an event, we conclude it with silent prayers. But as there are people of faith here, other faith, and there may be people of no faith at all, you're welcome to join us in whatever form that you may wish. Can I just ask everyone to please remember all the volunteers who made this event a success in your prayers. Every single program of our community, it is conducted by, it is hosted by volunteers. So every single person that you see on duty, every single person that you may see on your table, they're all volunteers. The food that is being prepared for you guys, that is also from volunteers. We had one of the gentlemen from the Frankston Council, he mentioned the property and how the kind of changes that it has gone through. If you see the pictures of this property when it was purchased, you perhaps would not be able to recognize it. Just take this into account that one of the neighbors, we were hosting him for some lunch, and he came through and he saw the property and he took me to the side and he said that where you guys pray now, that is the same area that I used to ride my dirt bike in. So you could imagine the state of this property, the state of this mosque it was in before it was purchased. The current shape and state of it, it is all through volunteers and voluntarily efforts and services that have been provided by extremely dedicated and humble people and members of Ahmadiyya Muslim Community all over Victoria. So please remember them in your prayers. Remember all the volunteers of today's event, all the staff from parking to security to, we've even got a COVID safe officer. So if you interact with him, just follow all his instructions. I'm sure I've missed some people, but the spirit of serving and spirit of action, you will see it throughout all our programs and all our events. With those words, I would like to request everyone to please join me in a silent prayer. Ameen. I understand there are some announcements, and after that, because of COVID-19 regulations and requirements, I believe that tables will be ushered towards food. Please cooperate with all the people on the duty, and I hope everyone had a lovely 26th of Jan, but we appreciate all of you taking time out on this Sunday and joining us for today's program and dinner. Thank you.
Thank you very much all. No more speeches, please. So, dear guests, please be seated. The food will be served soon. The COVID marshals will call each table separately, so to avoid crowding. So please help them in their duties. In the end, I would thank on behalf of Ahmadiyya Muslim Association to all the distinguished guest speakers, guests from different cultural, religious background, guests from Scientology Victoria, Indian Gujarati community, Sikh community, Om President, Progressive Judaism Victoria, Sri Lankan Buddhist community, Sri Lankan Muslim community, members of Bangladesh community, Indian Association of Australia, member of KC Multi-Faith Group that are here in this room, David Frawley from Neighborhood, Neighborhood Watch, Andrew McNabb, Sohaili, Uday, Harmeet Singh Bumrah, Gagan Bumrah, from Apna Friends Channel, Naushad for We Care Victoria, and Felsi Top, Chief Executive Peninsula Health, and all the distinguished guests. Please pardon me if I left anybody. So thank you very much. Thanks for your coming, and thanks for giving us time giving us spare time, and we'll join us for the lunch. Thank you very much. Now it's almost dinner time.